Well, the YouTubes have spoken. I didn't even think I was going to make the last video on this topic and almost didn't even upload it thinking that it was stupid and that it was self-explanatory stuff that people just didn't need to know. Well, I was wrong. And now I'm going to do it again for you because, well, it's become my burden. What's going on, guys? It's Richard here from Crash Course Hobbies, and today we're talking about 5 more things to help you not be that guy at your local game store. Now, like I said, this is a second part series, so if you haven't seen the first video, I would recommend you watch it. You can find it up here or in the description. You don't need to necessarily watch them in order though, so just go watch it after this video is fine. But let's talk about things. Let's talk about things. Things in this hobby that are not good things. I do want to preface this by saying that like 99.9% of people out there are super fun and welcoming, and this is by far the most inclusive hobby and enthusiast group that I've ever been a part of, and I've been loving every second of it. But if you do find yourself around some of these people, or find that maybe you might be doing one of these things, take what you will from this video and enjoy the rest. The first thing is one that happened to me personally, and it was the first time I went into a Games Workshop store really excited with hobby bucks to burn in my pocket, ready to buy my first box of Warhammer and get started, and that's gatekeeping. The manager of that store gatekeeped me so hard that I ended up walking out of there with nothing and going to a different shop that actually had nice, helpful people and bought a bunch of stuff there. So why would we want to gatekeep our hobby? I mean, let's say you're playing a game and a kid comes up to you and wants to check out all the cool minis on the table. Maybe they've got a box in their hand and they're looking at it and they're excited to get into the hobby, and they just have a couple of questions. Why would you want to gatekeep them from enjoying the same hobby? Clearly you get a lot of enjoyment out of it and you spend a lot of time with it. You're there playing right now because it brings you joy. Why deny that to this young little seedling of a boy who wants to grow into a big bushy hobby tree? Why stomp that into the ground? It doesn't make sense. So just, help foster that excitement. Don't say, GW is money hungry and you're gonna end up blowing a bunch of money and wasting everything and it's stupid and don't do it. No, offer them helpful advice. Maybe you could say, yeah, it is an expensive hobby, so make sure you know what you're getting into because you will have to spend XYZ to get a full 2,000 point army, but don't necessarily do it from a standpoint of, it's a huge waste, you'll never be able to afford it, and it's a big waste of your time, and blah, 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 blah. And then offer some exciting stuff about it. Look how cool this battle is we're playing in front of us, where we've got this huge immersive scene, and we're telling stories through our game, and we're laughing, and we're having fun. So just whatever it might be, if it's something that you enjoy, why not share it with others, especially mini wargaming, when it's not the biggest community in the world, and by far the hardest aspect of this hobby is finding games, finding people to play with. So why not have more people out there that broaden your pool of potential games to play? Gatekeeping just doesn't make sense. The next one is kind of in a similar vein, but it's don't absolutely crush new players into the ground when you play them. Now, I do think it's normally pretty well established when you're going into a game that this person is not super experienced, whether you've set it up on Discord or you were talking to them at your local meetup night or whatever it might be, and they might say, oh, well, I'm pretty new, or I've never played, or whatever it might be. That's fine. But if you know that going into the game, and you're, if you're looking for a more competitive, practicing for a tournament or whatever it might be, then just don't play them. But if you're going into it and you know all this stuff, then keep that in mind and try to keep their fun at the forefront of it, especially if they're very new. Because if you go in with their super meta tournament list and they've just got their combat patrol box that's half painted that they're just really excited to get models on the table, if you absolutely crush them, then chances are their spirit's going to be a little bit broken and they may not want to go forward with it. Or at least if you, I'm not saying you have to dial it down with your playing or whatever you might be, but just keep that in mind when you play them. Don't see them as easy prey to be slaughtered and that it's going to teach them a lesson and help make them better, because while it might teach them a couple of things, honestly, it's just going to break their spirit and they're going to drive home with their expensive models and feel like they made a big mistake. So we really don't want to do that. And just, again, if that's not what you're looking for in a game experience, just don't play them, because it's going to be better for both of y'all. Beep 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 beep, painting a pointy stick. What? What's that? Less than 93% of people who are watching this channel are subscribed. What are you waiting for? I don't want to keep doing these stupid little skits. The next one is a very common courtesy one, like most of these are, but it's don't pick up and handle other people's models without their permission. I think it's pretty straightforward, but this is one of those things where they spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of personal investment in them. And especially if you've been eating snacks or you've been over at your D&D group eating gross, greasy McDonald's fries or whatever it might be, you don't want to put your grubby mitts all over their models, especially you don't know if they're varnished yet or whatever it might be. You might be damaging the paint and all that kind of stuff. So just look with your eyes and not with your hands. Now, like I said, I encourage people to come over and check out our games. I love it when people make comments on my paint jobs or look at my miniatures. And it was totally acceptable to go up to the table and kind of look down and check them out. And if you do want to inspect it closer, just say, hey, do you mind if I take a look at your model? If they say yes, make sure you pick it up by the base and hold it by the base rim, because you're least likely to mess up the paint or anything there. And just kind of give it a nice little look over and then put it back. Don't pick it up by the whole model and put your grubby little mitts all over it. This is just rude and it's just bad etiquette. It's not good. Just don't do it. Now, in the interest of keeping our minis nice, if you are somebody who likes to roll the dice on the table, which I like to do that too, you don't always have to use a dice tray. Sometimes it's kind of fun to throw the dice in the middle of the action on your big wargaming table. I like that. I think it's cool. But be mindful of where and how hard you're throwing your dice. If your opponent's got a big line of 20 Necron warriors, don't go bowling for Necrons. That's just mean, and you're definitely going to risk breaking one or two of their models. And while these models are pretty durable, you don't know if maybe they were dropped previously and they super glued a weapon back on or something, and so it's going to be way more likely to pop off. And playing against somebody who's constantly doing orbital bombardments with their dice onto your miniatures is not a good feeling, and really it's just kind of rude. So don't do that. Just find an area of the table that's a little bit more open, or don't throw them like you just chugged a can of Red Bull, and I think overall it will be a much better experience for everybody. The last thing I would recommend is that if you see somebody doing this kind of stuff and you see people getting into a disagreement or an argument or escalating to possibly even further than that, don't be afraid to get the store management involved or intervene yourself. Now, I'm not telling you to get into a fist fight with these people. Don't put yourself at risk. Obviously gauge the situation. But if you see somebody just making a total fool of themselves, being an absolute jerk to a kid in the middle of a game or whatever it might be, just call them out and be like, hey man, you're being a real jerk right now, and you either need to get out of the store or change how you're behaving. And a lot of times just simply calling somebody out on their actions is enough to make them change, whether it's through them being embarrassed for being called out, or maybe they just simply don't realize they're behaving that way, or if nothing else, they'll get flustered enough and they'll take their toys and go home. Now, again, I'm not advocating for conflict here. I think, the best case is to just remove yourself from the situation. So if you're not enjoying it and they're being a total piece of crap, take your toys and go play with somebody who is worth your time. You don't have to finish the game if they're out of line. You absolutely don't. Or you can get the store management involved. Whatever you feel like you need to do. This is your hobby time. You should not have to enjoy it at the expense of others. So just, keep yourself safe, and also make sure that you're keeping enjoyment and fun and inclusivity at the heart of everything. Anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Like I said, there's a part 1 of this video if you want to check it out in the description or up there in the cards. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, this is more of an entertainment type video, but if you find that you take something from it, that's great. I'm all for, making our friendly local game stores even more of a friendly place to be. And on that note, be sure to continue supporting those stores because they really need it. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Painting my bull, he's gonna smack people with his big hammer bull. Hey. Definitely didn't see you there. Definitely didn't set the camera and the mics and all these lights up and pretend that I was gonna do that there.